you need to invest in loss. Unfortunately, the way the world is set up, the way society has kind of been shaped to be, is that we are penalized for making mistakes. And we live in fear of it. You make a mistake on a test, you get an F. You have to take that to your parents and be like, oh my God, no. You get an F in college, you don't get your degree. You make a mistake it professionally, and all of a sudden you might be at risk at losing your job. But the problem is that this reluctance to crash and burn is holding us back, and is holding you back. Where do I get this wording, invest in loss? Well, that actually comes from a book called The Art of Learning. And in that book, the author was born a chess prodigy. In fact, if you want to look up the movie, it was In Search of Bobby Fischer. He was slated to be the next great American champion. And you'll be surprised that just because you are a prodigy, just because you have an innate talent, does not give you a pass to not practice, to not learn, to not better yourself. It's fertile soil when you have innate talent, but if you don't do a good job at tending the crop, the soil is irrelevant. And so his journey in chess, and later his journey to become a Tai Chi world champion, he was able to glean a lot of these things that fall in line with a lot of other writers throughout history, where if you're not willing to face failure, you are not willing to learn. And one of the things that was difficult is, if you're not used to failure, when you first get it, it's going to be much more difficult, because our abilities to deal with failure, our ability to persevere, is what develops character. And if your character is weak, you're never going to really win at life. You need to be okay with people laughing at you. You need to be okay with looking like an idiot, as long as it's towards the betterment of what you want to achieve. Something that was difficult for me was that, much like each and every one of you, I had my own dreams of what my life was going to look like. And it hasn't turned out that way. But the thing was, in the academic space, I was used to easily achieving what I wanted. And so to be faced with the first time of failure, I was not prepared for it. I didn't know what to do. And going through years of not knowing what I was going to do, even now, I don't know completely if what I'm doing is right. I don't know. But it feels right. It feels like this blessings I was given can be best utilized in this way. And unfortunately, a lot of us won't get to that point where we get that kind of epiphany. We just wallow in this kind of defeatist mentality where I guess we weren't meant to be successful. I guess we weren't meant to be who we thought we were going to be. And that resilience to push forward and say, no, fuck that. I'm going to be. There was no difference between me and the next guy. And in fact, I'm more lucky than the next guy because of X, Y, and Z. Because I was given this hard hand and still was able to make something of myself. That is far more impactful. And the people that go through hard times are the ones who usually face losses more often, which is why they're able to end up becoming something even more successful once they overcome the barriers in place from their difficulties. Some people don't, but oftentimes people from the lowest lows end up achieving the highest highs. It's just how it works. The internal self has had to be built up from a more broken state instead of being shielded and then crumbling at the first sight of resistance. And this is where a lot of times parents get part of the blame, because they don't want their children to go through adversity. They need to. All of us do. Without the constant pain, the setbacks, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we were really meant to do. You don't want it to come easy. People who want it to come easy, want the shortcut, end up losing big in the long run. So coming back to the central thing, investing in loss, being able to lose. How do you lose well? Well, the right way to lose is ideally when the situations are not dire. You don't want to be testing new things that could potentially get you fucked up at a critical moment. Failure is best in controlled situations where, let's say you're training for a tournament. Mess up on the training. Be willing to experiment there, so that way when it gets to the actual main event, you have an idea of what's going to work and what's not going to work. When you're preparing for a big board meeting, try tactics, try presenting with other people and being willing to be like, hey, does this make me look like an idiot if I come out across with this tone or come out with this delivery? That's fine. And even if still, there are other situations where you can kind of put yourself in a place. Maybe you're in sales. Maybe you want to try out a new script. Go try it out with a couple of customers and see, hey, potential clients, it didn't work. I'm going to experiment. You always want to be experimenting. You always want to take a chance and look like a fool, because you might discover something new and you might discover something great. When it comes to being able to build this perseverance and be willing to be wrong and willing to suffer, I like to think about Albert Einstein. Again, guy, no question, that was a genius. But it's actually pretty funny. We could have lived in a world where Einstein was just not a name that anyone would know. To bring his theory of general relativity to light, it took Einstein 20 years. 20 years of bashing his head against the wall, give or take. I might be wrong on the total years, but it was a very long time. And he worked as some role in an insurance company, because it allowed him to earn a living while still having enough time. He could get the work done fast enough to go back to working on his theory of relativity. And if someone as intelligent, as unquestionably intelligent as Einstein, whose brain had to be studied afterwards because we needed to understand, hopefully get some insight into what it meant to be intelligent, maybe there was something different in his brain construction. It still took him 20 years of bashing his head to get that insight. And that's the point of that story, is to not make you so discouraged when things go wrong for you. Because if it takes Einstein 20 years to come up with something worthwhile, it may take you that much time. It may take you less. Your realm of genius might be stronger. You might be great at talking to people and able to sell products, and you discover that, become a motivational speaker, and all of a sudden take over the world. You might understand some kind of technical thing in the engineering space and create a new material that and then take over the world. You never know. So it's some way you have a genius. And the only way you're going to unlock that is by continuously pushing the envelope, continuously putting yourself in positions where you are willing to fail and discover more about yourself. That's the lesson for the day. Catch you next time.